Suicide rates are rising, especially in rural America. Rates among people in rural counties were 25% higher than those in major metropolitan areas. This is a September 6, 2019 article by Linda Carroll. Suicide rates are on the rise, especially in rural America, according to a study published Friday. From 1999 to 2016, the rates of suicide among Americans ages 25 to 64 rose by 41%, researchers reported in JAMA Network Open. Rates among people living in rural counties were 25% higher than those in major metro areas. A number of factors appear to be driving suicide rates up in rural America, including poverty, low income, and underemployment, said Lee study author Daniel Steele-Smith, a postdoctoral fellow at Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. Those factors are really bad in rural counties, said Steele-Smith. The study also found that counties with high levels of social fragmentation, based on the levels of single-person household, unmarried residents, and transient residents, and a high percentage of veterans, had a higher rates of suicide. All of those factors were more pronounced in rural counties. Now, folks, what social fragmentation is, it is a lack of God in the household, but not just that. It's a lack of fathers throughout America. And if a boy doesn't have a man in the household, especially that father figure, that boy never becomes a man. And then also the emancipation of the women, but we'll talk about another video for another topic. The presence of more gun shops was also associated with the increase in suicide rates in all counties, except for the most rural ones, the research reported. To take a closer look at suicide rates in America, Steele-Smith and her colleagues turned to data from the National Vital Statistics System, a database that includes information on suicide deaths, including year of death, gender, age, and county of residence. The researchers also used information from several other databases, including a U.S. Census, the American Community Survey, County Business Partners, Area Health Resource Files, and North American Industry Classification System. They found that from 1999 to 2016, there were 453,577 suicides among Americans ages 25 to 64, with the largest proportion occurring during the final 3 years studied. The majority of those who killed themselves were male, almost 350,000, and suicides were more common among middle-aged adults than younger and older adults. Counties with the higher risk of suicides were in the West, including in Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming, the Appalachia, including counties in Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, and the Ozarks, including counties in Arkansas, and Missouri. Now we have another article. Veteran suicides continue to increase as the 18th anniversary of the war in Afghanistan arrives. This is October 7, 2019. October 7th marks the 18th anniversary of American troops invading Afghanistan, and as the war continues, veterans' suicide rates are increasing. A September 20 Veterans Affairs report found that suicide among veterans had increased 6.1% from 2005 to 2017. The Daily Caller's News Foundation spoke to Jeremy Butler, CEO of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, about why the suicide rates are among veterans continue to increase and what the group is doing to help. As Monday marks the 18th anniversary of American troops invading Afghanistan, a U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs report shows that veteran suicides have been increasing over the past decade. U.S. combat operations ended in 2014, but around 14,000 troops still remain in the country. The Post-Register report, President Donald Trump called off discussions of peace terms with the Taliban in September after a bombing in Kabul, Afghanistan, killed 12 people. The war does not seem to have an end in sight while suicide rates among veterans increase. Jeremy Butler, CEO of a nonprofit Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, IAVA, told the Daily Caller News Foundation that the increase in veteran suicides could have to do with how long the war in Afghanistan has gone. The September 11, 2001 attacks prompted the war. Every anniversary kind of continues to be an opportunity for us to highlight the fact that we are still over there, Butler said. This is the longest engagement the U.S. has ever been involved in. The 18th anniversary is kind of unique, being that it is kind of highlighting the fact that there are people who potentially were not even born on 9/11 who are now old enough to join the military and go over there even and fight this conflict. 18 years of engagement with Afghan troops means that soldiers may be serving more tours than normal as well, Butler told the DNCF. This could be playing a role in the increased suicide rates, Butler said. Suicide rates among veterans increased 6.1% between 2005 and 2017, as September 20 VA report notes. The suicide rates for veterans also exceed that of non-veterans adults. The report found the rate for veterans who committed suicide was 1.5 times higher than that of non-veterans in 2017, according to the VA report. The IAVA has been working to help veterans struggle post-tour as rates of suicide continue to rise, Butler said. We're here to make sure that our veterans, that anyone really that needs that kind of support, are able to get it, Butler said. IAVA works with other groups and has been active in trying to do whatever possible to push legislation through the government to help the mental health of veterans, according to Butler, who met with people in the White House in September to discuss the issue. The biggest thing that we can do, I think, is not only work together to fund all these organizations, but also make sure that the government is making veterans and military members aware of them, Butler told the DCNF. We need to work together, but we also need to get all the underlying issues so that we're not constantly in a crisis state. And that includes reforms throughout the healthcare system to make sure things like mental health care are part of the insurance coverage that people have, he said. There were 5,787 veteran suicides in 2005. The VA report found this number increased in 2017 to 6,139. The amounts of suicides of American adults in general increased as well, showing a need for better mental health care in the U.S. This report highlights the mental health crisis in the U.S., Butler said. It's okay to not be okay, Butler told the DCNF when asked what he would tell veterans suffering from mental health issues after returning from war. There's no shame in asking for help. These are injuries just as serious as physical injuries to your body, just as serious as a gunshot wound, and you need to get professional help. You need to talk about them, and you need to be open to seeking care for them, he said. We're here to help you find that care and support that you need. Now, folks, real quick, to think about professional help as they see in therapy sessions, these people cannot really engage with the therapist or the vet because they don't think alike. The vet is fundamentally, quote unquote, broken, while this professional is perfect. One more article, folks. Big Pharma's war on our children. 1 million kids under age 6 on psychiatric drugs. Now, this is an older post by all the way back to 2018. In the United States, there are 1 million children under the age of 6 on psychiatric drugs. This number is particularly disturbing considering the horrifying side effects and ineffectiveness of a good number of these types of harmful drugs. 1 in 6 Americans overall regularly take some type of medication in this category. However, children are now being swept up in Big Pharma's desire to make money, not improve health. Mental health watchdog group Citizens Commission on Human Rights is drawing attention to the concerning fact that more than 1 million kids younger than 6 in our nation are currently taking these psychiatric drugs. According to Natural News, around half of these children are 4 to 5 years old, and an incredible 274,804 of them are younger than a year old. That's right, babies are being given psychiatric drugs. The number rises for toddlers aged 2 to 3, with 370,778 kids in this category taking psychiatric drugs overall. If this isn't horrifying to you, congratulations on your brainwashing. Data from the IMS shows that the drug situation only gets worse as kids get older, with 4,130,340 kids aged 6 to 12 taking some type of psychiatric drug. You might be forgiven for assuming that most of these statistics are made up by kids taking ADHD drugs, given how common that approach seems to be nowadays. But it really only accounts for a small portion of it, with only 1,400 of those younger than a year old, and just over 181,000 of those aged 4 to 5 taking ADHD drugs. Natural news. Now, 1,400 of those being younger than 1, and we have roughly almost 275,000 babies taking these drugs. So, wow, that's still more than 273,000 babies. I mean, just not taking drugs that are not ADHD. That's what I'm trying to get to. The biggest category of psychotic drugs given to children appears to be anti-anxiety drugs. Just over 227,132 babies under 1 year old, and nearly 248,000 of those aged 4 to 5 take these medications. Again, babies are being mind-altering drugs before their first birthday. But the news just gets worse from there. Experts believe these estimates are far too low, and the real numbers are actually much higher, due in part to the tendency for some doctors to hand out psychiatric medications for off-label uses. This risky practice entails giving out a drug to treat something that is not indicated for, and the long-term effects of such an approach are completely unknown. When adults choose to take psychiatric medication, it may be ill-advised in many cases, but it is still their choice to make. Children, on the other hand, lack the cognition to fully understand the lifelong impact of such choice, and this essentially amounts to forced medication. We already know that many doctors have a financial incentive to get young people to start taking these drugs, but why are their parents so willing to get on board? Many of them are also taking psychiatric medications, of course. In fact, it has practically become a way of life in our nation, and many people think of these meds as harmless. The side effects of these drugs are nothing to scoff at. However, with anti-anxiety, antidepressant, antipsychotic drugs linked to heart attacks, psychosis, suicidal ideation, diabetes, stroke, mania, and sudden death. If that weren't bad enough, there's also the fact that many of the high-profile public shootings in recent years were perpetrated by young people on such drugs. So not only do kids have the risk of dying when they take these meds, but they can also take out a whole classroom or movie theater with them. Natural news.